Mr. Greg Burrow from Greg Our Comic and Fantasy is joining us today, and Miss Anastasia Anderson, as well as my special guest host, whose superhero eidetic memory, pop culture eidetic memory, is a power in and of itself. So he's got magical memory powers that just blow me away. We're going to be continuing our talk about the Suicide Squad. Now, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a warning. All week we've done the lead up. At this point, if you're not prepared for spoilers, then turn us off. But as Frank made a really wonderful point earlier, the way that movies and stuff work now, it's like nobody cares about spoilers the way they used to. So
no, if the plot's good enough, it actually motivates people to watch it.
Yeah, watch our show.
And you've already been warned.
You've already been warned.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Today we're going to be talking about the Suicide Squad.
The definitive article.
Yes. The
James Gunn. From the horribly beautiful mind of James Gunn.
It's not just any Suicide Squad, it's the Suicide Squad.
Right.
And it's the new one that is out. It came out last week. We saw it, and you saw us at the Bob Bullitt State History Museum. We did a couple of little live posts from that. And we're going to tell you our opinion and our review. First things first, I want to just recap from yesterday when we were talking about the old David Ayer version of it. And this is important because this is going to lay the groundwork for today. There were 3 things wrong with the first one. One, there wasn't enough death to the villains. You missed the whole point of the whole Suicide Squad. And I mean, we lost, yes, of course, Slipknot got killed at the beginning to show that the bombs were real. And then
El Diablo. We basically lost 2 characters with names.
2 characters with names.
Yeah.
And if you'd seen our first episode Monday where we were talking about the whole concept of the comic book in the first place where people could die, well then, first of all, dude, you just completely missed that point.
Yes.
That was important. The second problem was that it was their self-defeating, the reasoning, the logic behind her putting the whole thing together, that just wasn't quite right either. To fight superheroes, and then, then they're all normal people. And what was the third one we had set up? I know there was one that was really important, and I wanted to try and remember it for the start of it, that they just plain got wrong.
Well,
and the third one is the whole concept of the Suicide Squad was that Amanda Waller bribed them, or in some other way, she still gave them a choice. Whereas the first movie, they completely missed that.
There's a scene, the way it's cut, it's implying that even though some of them don't want to do it, they're not given the choice.
Yeah.
And this is kind of important as we lead into talking about the current movie, where the core of it is, like I said, it's like the Dirty Dozen, where this is a secret black ops. These are secret black ops missions. It's not necessarily about fighting a super villain or a super menace. It's about a mission that is dangerous, and Waller wants to use people who are expendable.
But at the same time, she gives them a choice.
She gives them a choice, and if they can survive the mission, she is going to reward them. She keeps her word. She's going to reward them. She may not have a conscience, but she's
a person of her word.
She sticks to the deal.
And in the first movie, they didn't really so much do that. It was more compulsory on some.
Yes,
the majority of them.
It gave the illusion was that most of them didn't have a choice, and so the big problem, and for me, is that it really was far removed from what the core of what the source material is about, and if the original version as communicated by David Ayers is even further away from the source material. But as we go into this movie, it's the very opposite. It's very true to the source material.
Yes, James Gunn loved the comic. He was a fan
of Ostrander's Run.
Of Ostrander's Run.
Mm-hmm. And it was very true to the spirit and the DNA of that book, of Ostrander's concept. And even John Ostrander has a cameo in the movie. He's the one injecting Michael Rooker with the explosive device in his neck.
What? Oh, that's cute.
Yes.
So we have a cameo. So
Yes.
that goes to show you the importance of, and I think this is one of the things that we talk about a lot when we talk about the DC Extended Universe, is the importance of respecting the source material and having somebody who's a fan. It's one of the reasons I don't care for Zack Snyder's stuff, is because I don't ever feel like he really got the characters.
And
really
it's not just respecting, it's understanding.
And it's understanding.
And how to communicate
And that's
that
what
in the film medium.
At least at the beginning, at the very, and for the majority of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you've got people handling these properties that truly love them. Jon Favreau's Iron Man, which kicked the whole thing off, the reason people liked it is because it was stayed enough to the core of the characters in the comic book that people are like, oh, this feels new, yes, and there are interpretations and there are variations and deviations.
Yeah,
or whatever.
the same way the Russo brothers do understand the characters they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And they're making very good choices, and they're making earned proper character choices.
Yes.
For the most part, and this is, you can kind of guess we all liked the Suicide Squad.
We did like the new one.
And I'm just going to say straight out, and this is something I've said, because recently James Gunn brought up the whole Martin Scorsese thing, because Martin Scorsese does not have a high opinion of superhero movies, because he's very much from an era where he, along with maybe half a dozen other filmmakers in the late 60s, early 70s, really redefined American cinema.
Yeah.
With Sam Penn, Peckinpah, even a young Spielberg, Sidney Lumet. These are like people, if you see their movies, they made good adult movies, oftentimes with good characters. Bonnie and Clyde is like that. These are not people who are squeamish and don't like action. No. But he wants to, they want to create art.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, the one thing overall comment about, as I said about Suicide Squad, is it's very interesting that he takes a similar approach, on the surface, a similar approach as Quentin Tarantino, which he embraces the grindhouse aesthetic of the 70s, which is basically all the B films, which are ultra-violent, full of sex, full of gore, but he really applies the kind of things that filmmakers like Scorsese like to use. It's a very cinematic thing. It's a very sophisticated film with a good script, good character. This is a kind of movie which, honestly, I believe a filmmaker like Scorsese, even if he doesn't like it, he would respect it.
Yeah.
He would really respect and know, yes, you're trying to make a piece of art.
Yeah.
That's what I felt this movie was art.
And I felt, and in contrast to even the Snyder Cut, there's a certain level of where it's like, yes, visually, you're getting the cinematography, you're getting those artistic visuals and some of the sounds, but you're at the cost of the story and the characters.
And you should realize good art isn't about special effects or a
that's
stellar
just
cast. Good art, from a filmmaking viewpoint, is how do you take the script, and it's a visual medium. You take your actors, you take your scenery, and you imbue them what's known as the mise en scène. It's an old pretentious French term that film theorists like to use back in the 50s. But it really applies where you take the scenery, the music, the lighting, you bring it all together to tell a story, to tell the scene. You're not like saying, okay, guys, we want you to just kill and beat up a bunch of guys here. No, there's also a narrative going on. There's a story going on. There are subtexts going on.
Well, it's the parts creating a better whole.
Yes.
And often in this, there's actually a story being told within the story.
Yes. Which is why ultimately this is a two-part review, and one is about the movie in general, and one talk about the characters, because James Gunn is giving a lot of attention to both.
Yes.
There's some very great camera work and cinematic in the very good sense of the word. Even watching it on a small screen, you can see, wow, you didn't have to film it this way.
But you
did. But you're doing that because you're trying to excite the viewer, but not with special effects, with what movies can give you. And that's something I'm going to tell you what really someone like Scorsese is talking about. Movies should be an experience that hits you right here, not just visually dazzle you with special effects, but really affect you as a whole.
Well, it's just like sometimes, especially with superhero stuff, you get the cheap thrill.
Yeah.
You get the like, oh, we're excited, we got the adrenaline.
Yeah, and that's
the
great.
Theater, we're like, oh, this is really
Because
exciting. But it's
love
like,
Iron
are
Man.
you chewing on it? Are you really thinking
And-
about it?
Yeah, and
deeply
just to
a
kind of
week
give you an
later?
idea, to compare probably the one Marvel movie, which I think is safe to say is art, is Black Panther.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's art.
On every level, from the costuming to the scene development,
And-
which is what I think that they're trying to want. That's what I
Yes.
really think they want to go for with each
And
one.
I'll honestly say that I think this is really the best thing James Gunn has ever done. This is not for everybody. I know people who
It's
are
super
repulsed.
gory, it's super violent.
It's because again, it's very grindhouse on the surface,
Mhm.
but it really is like, because he is given the freedom that he was, because this is an R-rated movie, he is able to do things here visually that he can't do in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And there were things that he did in this film that I was like, going in, I was afraid he wasn't going to be able to go full bore.
Yeah.
Like with Starro, he goes full bore.
Yes.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
And he
I was
embraced
like,
it.
oh my goodness, it was like even beyond.
Well, that's what.
And-
Yeah, he embraces the absurdity. He does this really
And-
awesome balance. Now he doesn't go. He doesn't do it like everybody who goes. Oh, it's from a comic book. It's cartoony. I want to make it grown up. So I'm going to make it dark and
yeah,
blah blah blah.
he is
Right.
actually making it violent and gross, but after the shock, you can kind of take it because there is humor. There's an absurdist sense of humor to balance it out, to help you get through it. It reminds me of this one movie with Jeffrey Combs
With
called
Jeffrey Combs?
called Reanimator,
Oh yes.
and I'm
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about the non-rated version, which is extraordinary. Not the R-rated version, the unrated version. That's
Okay.
what I saw in the theater with my friend. And it is a gore fest. It is violent. It is shocking.
Yeah.
But it is brilliantly funny and original. But the humor and the pacing is directly tied in all the violence and gore. So when you cut the scenes to get an R rating, you're cutting a lot of wit
Yeah.
and humor and unexpected plotting.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's what you're also kind of getting with, and James Gunn is doing, is that there is a wit to this, because, and some of it is obvious, like, when in the beginning, we know there's the
Yeah,
bloodbath,
okay, see it.
and then you get those little interlude credits where the blood is turning into Warner Brothers Presents.
Yes.
That's one of the things I loved about this film is that even like, it'll say like, a few moments later or something like
Yes.
that, and it was like something in the scenery or something,
Mhm.
made the words, and then they would like it could be like they was looking across the city and you see like
Yeah.
the laundry and like the
Oh, yes.
smokestacks and all these things
Yeah.
make the words,
Yeah,
and then
it's
it
kinda
goes
like-
up and then it all
Yes,
gets
and that's the
assembled.
Jotunheim thing before,
And
where,
here's where hold on, here's where Frank is talking about the importance of letting the director and the creator have this vision. I think I liken this in a kind of a way to Ang Lee's Hulk. Ang Lee was trying to figure out a way. It didn't really work, and I think the studio kind of hindered him on doing it. I would have actually liked to have seen it. But he was trying a way to translate not only the story but the medium itself. Whereas
Yes.
comic books are a very visual medium, and they have there's a very distinct aesthetic that goes with them that really pulls you in. He was trying to figure out a way to translate that and make it onto the
Yeah.
screen. Well,
And
they
it didn't
kind
work
of
as well as it did in the Suicide Squad.
No,
That's what I'm saying.
no, but
But
this
he
is still,
tried.
but
That's
he
what
was
I'm saying.
trying, and I
He
think,
tried, and the
and
studio
it's a
didn't
fresh,
get
it was
and
still
they
a
kinda
fresh,
held him back.
and it was still a fresher medium at that point. People weren't interested in creating art
Yes.
at that point.
Yeah.
And Ang
Which
Lee
is what
is an
Ang Lee wanted
artist,
to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
he's a guy who wants to do multiple every genre possible,
Yeah.
but still create art.
The creator.
Yes,
exactly.
but and to give you that idea about how thoughtful on a visual level, because I'm talking about more about the scenes, because the next part is about the characters,
Yeah.
is when you think about the opening with Michael Rooker's character Savant, and you have like the choice of having Folsom Prison Blues with Johnny Cash and the live version that
Yeah.
he did, and there is Michael Rooker's Savant throwing the ball, and you could see there is something to him, and then we shoot the bird like, no.
Yeah.
But you have to be reminded, like, unlike in the first movie, this is a cruel man.
Yes.
Yeah, this is not.
This is not a hero.
Correct.
This is a criminal who has no qualms. How can I do a trick shot to kill the bird?
Yeah.
And he does it. And I remember my husband like, oh no,
Yes.
Right, oh my
don't
God.
put. And
Oh yeah, look, we were doing that in the theater.
but
all of us were like,
when his
"Whoa,
character
no,
got, and
no."
but
I was
the,
like, before
but
the
the
bird.
symmetry, like, why do it? Because you have the symmetry of the scene where the first team, almost everybody gets killed to train to prepare the audience. This is risky stuff. This high mortality, and of course you have somebody trying to defy Amanda Waller, which is Michael Rourke's savant, and he gets his head blown off. And what to the final scene we have? We see a bird picking at his brain.
It's
That's what we made,
delightful.
which is you have the irony of that, and it brings it's a gallows humor, but it brings a necessary relief to all the brutality
Yes.
we see.
Yes.
And
And
also,
then you move on.
it also gives you the comic book feel.
Yes.
It gives you
Right.
the comic book feel in that this is something you would see in the comic book medium that other creators of superhero movies in the genre try to avoid because they think it's too silly and childish.
No, but
And
yeah,
to
but
have
yeah,
this
yeah.
in the right
And
place,
especially
has
with the scene with
place.
Peacemaker and Bloodsport, where they're supposed to be killing what they think are
Our
guards.
guards, yes.
And
Hysterical.
it is hysterical, and after a while, it's like,
Oh my god.
guys,
I know.
you're being a little too enthusiastic
Yeah,
here,
you're too-
because
Right.
of course they're trying to one up each other in this very alpha male kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
and of course it's like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to move this, and then of course, you didn't really have to kill most of those people.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But visually, you're right.
But it makes the point.
Yes.
And it also makes the point later, and I just thought of it now, is neither of them are at that point fit to lead the team.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need Rick Flag, who is 50 feet away.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
It
what
drives home the point that,
you're idiots.
Yeah.
Even so, why did they get? Because they're idiots. And here he is having to take the place because he's the leader.
Yes.
He's the one who you can trust.
But I did I liked a lot of the aesthetic choices. I like the
Yeah.
colors.
Yes.
Were so very unique. I think one of the important parts was that impressed me is when they actually did get to Starro, they didn't tone it down. They didn't try to make it look too much like a real starfish. I mean, this is
No.
a giant
It was
alien.
like straight from the.
It was
And
straight
he,
from
and
the
he
comic
said,
book.
he even said one of the times, it's a freaking giant gotcha.
Yes, kaiju. And it's
Yeah.
got the
Nah.
it's got the bright colors and
Yeah.
everything.
It's shameless.
Right.
It's shameless, yeah.
It's shameless because why
So-
should we deny
And
it?
embrace it, exactly.
So Anna, I haven't really heard much from you. What did
Oh.
you think? What did you feel about this?
We're gonna do the characters next, so
Yeah.
what's the fun?
So I did. It's like I had to think about this because I love. It's like weirdly enough, as much as I don't like gore, I like survival things like this,
Yeah.
where 90% of the people are gonna die. You expect it, and I had to sit there and think about why I was okay with this and not something like Battle Royale. And
Oh.
it's a writing thing. You
Yeah.
have to be. It's like I don't like feeling dread.
Yeah.
And this it does the pacing thing that I like with Frank, where it's like
It gives you the chance to
the ones that you dwell on, the ones that people remember, are the people who genuinely don't deserve it. Like the bird dies and you're like, oh my god.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's like, or this character you like died and you're like, oh my god. But even when you get invested in these characters, when they die, you're like, you have that moment where you're like, oh, but you kind of just keep going.
Yeah,
But it did get those
It's
three
like
things.
you can't dwell on it.
It did
anymore.
get those three things right from the comic stuff.
And
She did basically give them some kind of reward or choice. It wasn't much of one, and she
Yeah.
kind of, it wasn't a good choice. But
And we're
it was
getting
there.
to more of that in the next.
Yeah.
one.
And
Yeah.
But they killed them. They didn't just have the
there
one
was
guy
high
to show.
mortality.
It wasn't just the one red shirt to prove that it was serious. No, they killed.
But
They're
and
all
at the
dead.
same time, and the people who survive,
Right.
or while they're they do form a bond.
Yeah.
And it's organic, and it's not going to happen over one drink. It's going to happen over this
Over time.
This
Whole
this
mission.
plot happens more over like 2-3 days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it just takes time, and it's accelerated by the presence of Rick Flag, who is a good leader and is able to, because we're getting there. He comes along to help push it along. Just his presence.
Plus, the mission makes more sense.
Yeah, it's a covert
Yeah.
mission.
It makes
And
more
then
sense.
what's really smart, and this is the part that I thought was really smart of him and very cunning on James Gunn's part. This is a very jovial film
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the first 2 acts, and then when you get to the 3rd act, he drops the hammer where, okay, playtime is over. I'm giving you now reality, even with a giant starfish.
Yes.
I am
Yeah.
giving you the ugly reality of life, where governments suck.
Yeah.
People are just devious. A moral person cannot always survive such situations. And the people who Peacemaker, who is like a source of comedy, and even by the end of the second act, you sort of like him because he bought a drink for a rat.
He's a big old doofus.
And then you suddenly say, "Oh, you're not so funny anymore. You're scary.
Yeah.
You are scary."
So the conflicting ideologies and such as that's a really good thing. What was the other major theme that you picked up on that you were sharing with?
I said,
And
this
you
is,
want to talk about?
yeah, I like this because,
This is
it's
what's
a nice
gonna
way
be
to lead
the
into
part.
it is because there is a theme and they hit it like a literary reference from you would in a book, is that there's the whole issue about the welfare of children or dependents,
Yeah.
but mostly children, and you can really divide the good guys versus the bad guys versus how they feel about children.
Mhm.
So the people who ultimately end up being bad or like, no, you're terrible, have no qualms about killing or harming children.
Mhm.
And so the ones who do that, and even the ones who are complicit, turn around because it's children.
Mhm.
It's all, and there's that nice thought that there is a line, even though these are criminals, even though people with a lot of baggage, there's a line that someone who's at their core with a conscience and want to be decent that they won't cross. But they don't overplay that.
Yeah.
No.
They just pop it up. Like nobody's arc is about, like Bloodsport's arc is not about, I'm doing this to be a better dad.
No.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're doing this because you have no choice.
Well, I mean,
Right, you don't want your
My
daughter
goal
to die
is
in
not
prison.
to learn. I'm not trying to learn to be a better dad.
but at the same time, though, he still doesn't want her to be harmed.
No,
Yeah,
I'm doing
and
this
that's what I
because
wanted.
your safety. I'm doing this under duress
For the safety.
for the safety. And Amanda Waller, who really at the end of the day is not a good person,
No.
is like, she has no problem endangering a 16-year-old girl whose only crime was that she wanted a watch that she could watch TV on.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to go into that
Okay.
tomorrow. That's actually going to be a theme that's going to pop up a lot tomorrow. We just wanted to set you up for that because tomorrow we're going to go over the Suicide Squad characters. We're going to talk briefly about some
And
of
the
them.
performances.
Oh, yes.
Margot Robbie again.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
because
Knocks it out of the park.
Because there's a whole handful of characters. They're so well defined. And when to quote Eugene Levy, when your characters are well defined, the script writes itself.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was our Suicide Squad episode for today. Thank you for joining. I'm Brad West, and this is The Red Web. Make sure you go to bradsredweb.com, and you can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you tomorrow.